Hello, and welcome to the Psychology Department at the Cooper's Company and Coborn School. My name is Mr. Ferreira, and I'm the head of department. If you do psychology at Cooper's, you'll be taught by two people. That's Mr. Ferreira, that myself, and Mrs. Harries. We divide the topics amongst us, and every Year 12 student and every Year 13 student will be taught by both of us. So what is psychology? As you can see, it is the study of human behavior. Psychologists like to work out what make people behave. On this slide we also have 4 different ideas. The first idea is that maybe our behavior is down to genetics. We also see that there is an iceberg picture, and a person like Freud said that our behavior is down to our early childhood experiences, and that what we show people is just above the surface like an iceberg, but actually underneath there's a whole bunch of depth to who we are. Thirdly, we could see that maybe our human behavior is down to the way we think, or we could see that it's down to the way that we're socialized in our environment. So in psychology, we might tackle some large questions like, is it nature or nurture that makes us behave? Do we have something called free will? Can we actually make choices in our behavior, or are we controlled? And finally, is our behavior down to psychological reasons like the way we think, or our childhood experiences, or learned behavior, or is it down to our biology? If these topics excite you, then the A-level psychology will be right for you. So the first thing you want to tackle is, what would we do in A-level psychology? The first year covers the following topics: memory, attachment, research methods, social influence, a topic called approaches, or we say different approaches in explaining behavior, and psychopathology, or another way of saying psychological illness. I'm going to go through each of these topics in a bit more detail. So first of all, social influence. As you can see, there's a picture of Nazi Germany, and there's also a picture of Rosa Parks. These people obviously influence large groups of people to change their behavior based on their own actions. And a person called Stanley Milgram tried to understand why the Nazi German war machine would kill all the Jews. So in social influence, we look at conformity and why people conform. We also try to understand obedience and why people would do something bad just because they were told to do so. We're also trying to understand why some people are more independent than others and resist authority or resist conformity. That's the topic of social influence. In the topic of memory, we try to understand memory, and you can see that we could put it into practical use, like looking at eyewitness testimony, what happens in a trial. Or we have somebody who comes up with this idea that there might be a short-term memory and a long-term memory, or better known as the multi-store model. Or is it something more working memory where there's other things going on? All of these topics are covered in the memory topic in the first year of psychology. We also cover early childhood attachment, possibly a really important part of psychology, where we understand human behavior based on what their first initial attachment relationships were like. What happens if we don't form attachments? And what is the effect of separation from a mother figure or father figure? These topics are covered in the attachment section of the course. In the approaches topic in psychology, we look at different approaches to understanding behavior. For example, is behavior learned? And so many of you might be familiar with Pavlov and his dogs. Or is it down to biology? Or are there unconscious drives that we need to have a look at? These topics are really important to psychology, and one of the first things you'll do in September, where we're trying to understand how psychologists approach psychology in different ways. In psychological illness, a topic called psychopathology, we're trying to understand things like abnormality, or is there a reason to understand phobias or obsessive compulsive behavior or depression. This is a very interesting topic, and perhaps what has drawn you to psychology initially, where you're trying to understand people's kind of feelings and thoughts and emotions around psychological illness. However, underpinning all of the first year psychology, and also the only topic that you get taught in both year 12 and year 13, is research methods. So can I actually tell the difference between a hypothesis that is directional or non-directional? Is there variables that I need to understand before I run an experiment? Or how do I actually select my participants? Or how do I test a hypothesis? These topics are really important to psychology, including ethically, is it right to put people, for example, in a prison and then not look after them? These topics you'll cover in the first year of Psychology A-level. In the second year, and I'm not going to go into as much detail, we cover these topics. There are topics that are covered by every school in the country, that is issues and debates. Okay, and there will be kind of questions about whether gender or culture bias exists in psychology and what should we do about it. There's also a topic called biopsychology, and this is the most scientific part of the course that people do study, everyone in the country, and of course research methods. But this time the research methods look at inferential statistics and kind of the scientific method, looking at things like peer review and things like that. However, every school has an option to choose for the final paper between 9 different courses. And the 3 options that we have chosen are relationships, eating behavior, and addiction. It's important for you to know that other schools might have chosen different options. The relationships topic is really popular amongst most schools, but you might see a lot of schools also teaching the gender course. Eating behavior is less popular amongst other schools, because schools tend to favour the schizophrenia course. However, our expertise lie in eating behaviour, and we've successfully run this course over the past 20 years. Addiction is the final option that we choose, where a number of schools choose either the aggression topic or the forensic psychology topic. So if you are interested in taking A-level psychology, but you want to do those other topics specifically, you may need to look elsewhere. Now, if these topics do interest you, please consider taking psychology. We cover the AQA specification, and it's a 2-year course. If you'd like to email me at wfe@cooperscoborn.co.uk, you can ask some further questions, or the contact form on our school website. I still would like to tackle the question of why you should take A-level psychology rather than taking some of the other choices out there. And what we know is that good psychology students develop inquiring minds. They really do want to know why people behave the way they do. And as such, psychology students tend to have critical thinking skills. They can understand the strengths and limitations of theories and research. We also know that psychology students are quite precise and focus on clarity of expression. They need to be able to convey substantiated arguments coherently. Finally, we also know that psychology involves data and mathematics skills like interpreting statistics and also applying this to everyday behavior. These are some of the reasons why you might want to take an A-level psychology. A-level psychology does cover both maths, English and science skills. Psychology is a science, and we learn how to design experiments and how to measure behavior. We also produce data and will be able to analyze it. Finally, we also know that the theories of behaviors are often critically looked at and evaluated against competing theories, involving a lot of kind of essay writing and English skills. We also know that employees want people who can actually analyze these problems and find solutions to them. And so, of course, psychologists are able to design complex ways of researching behavior. Employees also look for people who are and be able to work well with others. And so, of course, psychology will encourage you to think about why people are behaving the way they are. We also know that universities require you to be able to substantiate your evidence and present conclusions. Psychology is a good A-level for that to be developed. So, as you can see, there are many reasons why we might want to choose A-level psychology and psychology at the Cooper's Company and Coborn School. If you have any inquiries, please do ask either at the open evening or contact the school and we'll be able to get back to you. Thank you so much. Good night.